proves it. Drake sailed straight through and headed to Arabia.
Crickets. Small problem. The Rubel Khali Desert, 600 miles across.
Hey AMG, it's me, TCF363, also known as AceFront, and I'm doing a review for Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. Are the expectations what they meet to? Is the game good? Watch the review and find out.
Uncharted 3, oh my god. Uncharted 3 is easily the reason you buy a PS3. It is not a reason, it is not something in the back of your mind. You play through the first two and then you buy a PS3, play through the first two, it should only take like a weekend, and then you play Uncharted 3 and you love it. Uncharted 3 was such a good game. Oh my god. You have no idea. Well, you probably do, but, oh my god, Uncharted 3 was just so spectacular. Please buy it, but I'll talk about that later, why you should buy it. But let's talk about the single player. Now, Uncharted games for me have always been about the single player, ever since the first one, and then the second one just blew me away even more. What about Uncharted 3 single player? Now, the single player story, Uncharted 3's story was just amazing. It really was. I mean, it had a level of writing and a level of craft that's not just good for a game, it's great for a movie or a television series. Seriously, I couldn't put it down. That's how good Uncharted 3's story was. I mean, when I had to stop playing, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta play more of it. Because it goes... The thing that the Uncharted series kind of had problems with is that they were kind of predictable. I mean, Uncharted 1, it wasn't as predictable, but you could kind of tell what was going on. Uncharted 2 was just like, it was predictable but so well written that you really didn't care. Uncharted 3 is not only well written, it's also, there are twists around every corner. Do not look up either a Let's Play or a walkthrough for any part of the game outside of what you are currently doing or what you have done already, because you are not going to want these you're not going to want these twists, spoiled for you. Even the first 10 minutes you don't want spoiled. 10 to 20 minutes, give or take. But, oh my god, Uncharted 3's story was just fantastic. And a lot of the characters come back, a lot of the characters are the same. But then they introduce new characters that are just incredible. They're very good. Uncharted 3's story was just fantastic, and the characters were incredible. The set pieces as well were just insane. They were so good. This is an action game. It really is. The set pieces here are just crazy. The story is great, but the very end, let's just say the way it ends, it's not like Uncharted 1 or 2. It feels like they have to make an Uncharted 4. I'm not going to explain why, but that's just that. But Uncharted 3, great story, great characters. The gameplay is also very, very, very improved. The third-person shooting, Uncharted 2 kind of had a small problem with its third-person shooting, where the bullets kind of felt slow. Uncharted 3's third-person shooting, it looks like Uncharted 2's, but it plays like Uncharted 1 if it were a lot more tight. And Uncharted 1 was really tight, so Uncharted 3 is as good as you can get when it comes to the third-person shooting. Let me just say right now, the game engine for the single player, like the whole overall shooting engine in the single player is not the same as it is in the multiplayer. In fact, the game engine period is slightly different in the single player. So it's not like Uncharted 2 where it was like the exact same thing for both parts of the overall experience. Uncharted 3 single player engine is different than the multiplayer. So while they might play very similar, they also play very different when you go into multiplayer. But Uncharted 3, still, the gameplay is just fantastic. it's pretty much more of the same, just bigger. There weren't as many improvements to Uncharted 3 as there were in Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 1. But Uncharted 3 just feels like the gameplay just feels tight, responsive, and very fun. I mean, the overall controls and, the overall control is just fantastic. The gameplay, the hopping and the shooting, it all works very well. Sometimes they even mix the two a little bit, so that's very cool. And the set pieces, like I said, the set pieces, the level design, it just works so well with the overall mechanics of the game. Like, everything about Uncharted 3's gameplay is just, it's almost perfect. There are minor control issues, like, especially with the new melee system. The new melee system is awesome, but I have one problem with it. In Uncharted 2, when I press the analog stick in a certain direction and O, Drake will move out of the way. In Uncharted 3, however, you can still do that. But the melee system gets confused with the, with the dodging system, and Drake will instead shove someone when really I want him to move out of the way. That's really the only control issue, but besides that, it's pretty much perfect. And then we move on to the presentation. Oh my sweet lord, the presentation is phenomenal. Oh my god. The presentation is just, the graphics look fantastic. Both single player and multiplayer. The graphics are just amazing. The game, like, the detail in the environments, the details in the treasures, like, every little thing has the highest amount of detail you can possibly think, and it just looks incredible. The new lighting engine makes everything just look that much better. Like, you can have a great looking game, but it looks that much better when you have a good lighting engine backing it up. And oh my god, Uncharted 3's lighting engine is just fantastic. The animation, like, the motion captured animation just looks fantastic. It's about as immersive as you can get on this kind of level. And even though the faces aren't motion captured, the lip syncing, it just looks about as perfect as you can get without using actual face capture. It's just that good. And the sound design is just, again, fantastic. I mean, every gun sounds exactly the way you want it to. Every little thing just sounds so high quality. And the voice actors. The Uncharted series, just as a whole, has some of the best voice acting I've ever heard in a video game. And Uncharted 3 is no different. It's just simply phenomenal. That's what it is. Uncharted 3's voice acting is just phenomenal on every level. There wasn't a single voice actor I didn't like and or felt that they didn't fit. It's just fantastic. What can I say? And then we have the replay value. Uncharted 2 had very good multiplayer, and it was very replayable. I've spent quite a bit of time with it. Uncharted 3 is just 5 times that. The multiplayer is greatly expanded. You now have custom classes, you now have more of a reason to keep playing, and once you start playing, you really start to feel improvement. It's not like Call of Duty or Battlefield where, if you're bad, you only marginally get better, or if you're good, you get just ridiculous. Uncharted 3 really feels like if you're bad, you will get better after every match. And it's not like a substantial amount, but you'll get better. But once you start getting better, you start getting better. Like, Uncharted 3 just has such a good multiplayer, it really does. And it's a very popular game to play online. And then there's the co-op, which there are 2 types of co-ops. There's the regular co-op, which is just it uses the multiplayer maps. It's basically like a survival, if you will. There's that kind of co-op, And there's another variation of that where it's basically the same thing, only it's also like a deathmatch where you're dealing with other teams. So it's basically the same thing, like but they're just different variations, but they're different enough to have different feels. And then the adventure co-op is what they call it. Think of a condensed, if not completely different version of the single player with 3 different people, and then just so it's easily some of the best fun that I've had in a co-op experience. Just these story single player missions that I'll warn you right now, they utilize the multiplayer's game engine. Even though it might be more like the single player just with like cooperative experience, it's not the single player game engine. It's its own different thing. But that's not bad. But overall, Uncharted 3, its replay value is off the charts. It's so replayable. Even after beating the single player on hard, I still want to play it. It's still such a fun game to play. Oh, and if you've got a 3D TV, it takes advantage beautifully. It just is easily one of the best experiences of 3D on the PS3. Period. I mean, I'm sure there's something better out for it, but at least in the future, but right now it's just so good. But overall, Uncharted 3, such a great game. It's not quite the boom that I was expecting. Oh, this is going to be so much better than Uncharted 2. But what it did really good. Buy Uncharted 3, get it for Christmas, I don't care, just play it. Play Uncharted 3, have a good time. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out our Twitter and our blog for future updates, written reviews, and much more.